Welcome to Behind the Camera, a show dedicated to the producers, directors, technicians, and all the people that bring the images of sports to your television every night. I am your host, Uncle Jesse. On today's show, I welcome in Vanessa Lambert. She's a producer for Fox Sports North. She does the Twins games in Minnesota, my home away from home. Welcome into the show.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate an excuse to do my hair and put on makeup for the first time in about 2 months. So thank you.
Yes, it's an excuse to get up and shower and get ready and look nice. Yeah, exactly. So how did you get into sports television?
My uncle actually has worked in TV for a long time. I will not say how long. Various jobs, started out as a technical director, worked his way up to director with ESPN. He's been with ESPN for over 20 years. So growing up, this will tell you how old I am, but ESPN, ABC had hockey. They had NHL coverage. And so growing up in the Detroit suburbs, a huge Red Wings fan, and my uncle was in town a lot covering the Red Wings back in the mid to late 90s and 2000s. So just kind of got a chance to go down, check out the truck. My mom would let me skip school some days to go down and spend the whole day there, and just kind of got exposed to that at a young, impressionable age. And so I thought, gee, this would be kind of fun. He tried to talk me out of it. Clearly, I didn't listen, and here I am.
Yeah, there's many of us that always try to talk the young ones out of it, and they always end up in the business too. It is a lot of fun what we do, and I love it. So now I graduated high school from Fargo. My dad dragged us up there when I was in high school, but it's my home. I love the Midwest. I love the area. My mom lives in the cities. What is your most favorite Minnesota moment being in the Midwest now?
Oh, gosh. I'm a total Midwest girl, clearly grew up in Michigan, moved to Minnesota. I think for me, when we said farewell to the Metrodome, the Twins kind of made a crazy push in 2009 to actually end up in the playoffs. But for most of the summer, we figured they wouldn't be in the playoffs. And so for the last regular season game at the Metrodome, they kind of did a farewell ceremony type thing after the game, just kind of, saying goodbye, welcoming in the new stadium the following year. And so as part of the show that we did, I was actually with a crew over at Target Field, and our portion was to have Harmon Killebrew, Tony Oliva, and Rod Carew raise the flags at Target Field, kind of signifying like the beginning of the new ballpark. And so I was in charge of the three of them. I had only been here a few years, so I knew who they were and how important they were to the Twin Cities and to Twins fans. But not growing up here, sometimes you don't necessarily understand how important they are. But we rehearsed over and over and over what their cues were, what they were supposed to do. And I think it's funny because I think most athletes kind of craved a coach or someone telling them what to do. And I just remember Harmon looking at me that he's like, Vanessa, are we doing this right? And I felt so guilty that a Hall of Famer was asking me as a 20-something, like if he was doing something right. I didn't want to tell him no. They were so great to work with. Harmon, God rest his soul, was one of the nicest human beings, and most baseball players say that. And same can be said with Rod and Tony. They are amazing people that we get to see on the regular, which we're very lucky.
Yeah, we are very lucky in our business that we do get to work with some amazing people. Everyone that comes on the podcast always has a story of some great sports legend that we've all met. And sometimes we just don't even think about it. I know I don't, and I forget, I've got Bob Brenly in the booth, and I just talk to him every day, but he's Bob Brenly. We get to work with some pretty amazing people. Now, there are many amazing women in our business who have worked up through the ranks. You produce, which is amazing. I work with a great producer. She helps me with this show as well, who's from your neck of the woods. We stole Chelsea from you, so we appreciate stealing her from you. But what are some of your favorite women rule, if you want to call it that, but just the women moments in sports and how women are growing in sports?
Yeah, I think it's important. I mean, I try not to to put too much focus on it. I mean, I absolutely would love to see more women in the business, and there are, beginning to be more women in the business, but especially in my position, there are only a couple NBA producers and a few MLB producers that are women. So, I try not to champion the movement as much, but I really appreciate seeing it. And, I think my group here has just kind of adopted me and taken me in, and it's not, there's nothing, oh, she can't do it because she's a female, but I've been part of a few special things. I feel like, just kind of championing the women's movement. Last season had an opportunity to produce a game. Rebecca Brunson, who is a 5-time WNBA champion, she is now an assistant coach with the Lynx, but she joined our broadcast last year, doing some pre and post, doing some games as well. She was already going to be on the broadcast along with Dave Benz and Jim Peterson, but Dave's mom passed away, and so he needed to go back to New York for her funeral. And Marnie Gellner, who is one of our reporters, she also does Lynx play-by-play for us, stepped in and did play-by-play. So we had a female on play-by-play, a female analyst, along with Jim Pete, and myself in the truck. So we weren't quite the all-female broadcast that NBC and others did this past winter, but it was a pretty cool moment. And we think we're kind of the first in the NBA. There may have been female play-by-play and analysts in the 80s, but we're not totally sure about in the production chair as well. So it was fun. Good times.
Yeah, it is great. It is great to see the diversity of our business, to see those young females coming up through the ranks, and to see some wonderful females to work with. We just got a new female producer down in Atlanta who's now the full-time primary producer. So yeah. It's a great feeling. Sometimes, though, a not so great feeling is that moment when you don't think you're getting on the air. And yes. I've had my fair share of those, talked about a couple of them on the podcast already. What is one of your oh no, are we actually going to miss a broadcast moment?
It was actually, I think for me, kind of a welcome to this crazy world. I was filling in on Timberwolves broadcast at the time. I think it was 2014, 2015. My first ever road trip with the Timberwolves, my third Timberwolves game ever flying solo. We were down in Miami, and about a half an hour before we were going to do pre-production, our A1 came in and said, we lost all audio. We're not sure what's going on. We're going to work on it. We're like, okay, cool. So, we're waiting. And they're like, well, just go to lunch. We'll figure it out when we come back. So we come back, and, it's about an hour before pregame. And I had kind of warned my boss and things like that, like, listen, we have video, we're going to have graphics, we're going to have all this. We might not have any audio. We might need help. And luckily for us, our pre and post game host and analyst had actually done games before. So we're like, all right, well, we can send them the video, they can put their own words to it, whatever. So the A1 and engineers on the truck busted their butts, and they're like, okay, we think we can steal 10 channels of audio from the home board and give it to you guys. Now, that includes like IFBs for talent, phone lines to communicate with people, like anything. Tape machines, replays, spot box, microphones, whatever. So
basically 32 sources you got to cram into 10.
Exactly. So we're like, all right, what do we need? So we're like, well, clearly we need 3 microphones. Perfect. We wanted music. There were certain things that we wanted. So literally I was on the phone with Master Control and with our studio, like counting to and from breaks. Dave and Jim, play-by-play and analyst, had they were on like one. Essentially, if I talked to one, I talked to both. They were on the same PL. They couldn't hear each other. They had like no program in their headsets, so they had to like sit like with one headphone off and like leaning in, like when they're off camera. Marnie, reporter, couldn't talk to her, so we had the handheld camera person kind of cueing her, which was great. It was very interesting. So I think we all take pride on when things might be on fire in the truck or run amok that no one at home really knows any different. And so we survived. It was definitely challenging. And I think, everyone was like, wow, we pulled it off and you didn't freak out. And I was like, sometimes it's out of your control. You can't freak out over those things and you just kind of have to adapt. And, our goal is to make sure that fans at home have no idea what's going on behind the scenes.
And ultimately, that's where the technicians come in, is that a lot of those times, man, we get done at the end of the night and we're beating ourselves up. We feel bad, like, I can't believe that just happened or whatever. And most of the time, people are like, game was great. They have no idea all that was going on in the truck and all the headaches. I'm the same way. I'm like, at some point, there's only so much I can do. It's out of my control, and yelling or freaking out or getting upset or anything, it's not going to help the situation. I mean, if the audio board breaks, the audio board breaks. There's nothing much you can do about that.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's out of your control. It's technology.
Yeah. And technology fails us on a regular basis in the TV truck. Now, one of the things I love about what we do is we're a family. We spend more time with our TV family often than we do with our own family. Do you have any fun TV family moments?
The first year we did our Hockey Day Minnesota desk, like our coverage around all the games outside at the site. And so we were up in Duluth in February, and it was I'm sure the wind chills were below zero.
Yeah,
like it was
Duluth
cold.
In February.
Everyone, you're bundled up, you have snow pants on and however many layers. And I spent most of my time in the production truck. However, we were doing the games like at a park. They built a rink on a park. So the bathroom facilities are porta potties. Yeah. And when you have, however many layers on, you're trying to take off. Your hands don't work because it's cold. Like the bathroom situation is not ideal, right? So we're on like day 2 of being outside in Duluth, and it's like 8:00 at night. We've been there since 6 a.m. And my boss goes, you were just like, he goes, I could tell you were tired. He goes, but all of a sudden you're like, you're talking to yourself out loud, like, okay, it's 8:00. The Wild game is just starting, which means we probably won't be out of here till midnight. So if I go to the bathroom one more time, what time do I need to go? He's like, I just started dying. He's like, cause you're just like train of, like just your train of thought, just like spitting it out, trying to figure out how you can go to the bathroom one more time because it's like the worst thing ever.
Yep.
He's like, to me, it was totally normal. But to most people, like, why are you talking about going to the bathroom with?
Yeah, you're not telling your coworker in the cube next to you, okay, so I think I'm gonna go to the bathroom at 11.
Yeah. Most of the time they don't care. And he's like, it was just, you're comfortable. We don't think twice about talking about things like that in front of our coworkers. I was like, yeah.
Well, I think that's honestly the hardest thing for me about the virtual thing, and so I've told the people have asked, is it's all the stress without the camaraderie. Like, everyone's through a Unity intercom, so I'm by myself in my theater on a laptop, and everyone else is by themselves in those moments don't happen virtually. And that I think would be the hardest part about all of it. I mean, at least in a studio, we'd be sort of close. We'd probably be like 6 feet apart, but at least we'd be in the same room.
Yeah, I know. And it's hard because that is what I think we all enjoy the most. Yes, we love doing games. We love our jobs, but it's the camaraderie and hanging out. And what do you do after the game? What do you do on off days? Like, that's the part that we enjoy the most. Absolutely.
Now, as a Minnesota fan, my dad is a huge Twins fan. He lives in Fargo now and has a lake place out there in Lake Country, and my mom's in the city. So been to some Twins game, love Target Field, but one of my favorite Twins players was Joe Mauer. Now, you got a chance to do his final game. Did you know that was his final game?
We didn't. We had an inkling, only because his contract was up. There were a lot of rumors flying around. We weren't sure. So we kind of went into it thinking, if this is his last game, what do we want to do? And so we were very Joe focused on that day. Just kind of sound from teammates talking about him, focusing on his career, everything he's meant to the Twin Cities, essentially growing up here. And I think, it ended up being a very cool broadcast, and, the most, I guess, what stands out in most people's minds is Joe putting on his catcher's gear one more time, coming out, literally catching one pitch and walking off the field in tears because of, what the crowd, how they were acknowledging him. And my friend Dustin Morse in Twins PR had tipped me off at about an hour before the game started that it was a possibility. I know they had kind of gotten word earlier in the week that it might happen. And, Joe found his gear, had talked to his dad, and the team had actually talked to the White Sox and said, if we're in this specific situation, here's what's going to happen. And the White Sox were on board, which is great. I think some of Joe's teammates knew. And so it worked out that, kind of the cue was when a certain pitcher was warming up in the bullpen that was going to come in and throw to Joe. So they had kind of worked it out. And, I was texting back and forth with PR during the game, and kind of about the fifth inning, I kind of started tipping off people in the truck, like, hey, this might happen. How do we want to do it? We're clearly not going to go to commercial break so we can see him come out. And, was kind of texting my bosses saying, like, what's going on? I didn't tell our play-by-play analyst until about a half an inning before, just so they knew we're not going to go to break. Here's why, we want to make it special and important. So we caught it. It was a great moment, and it ended up being Joe's last game in a Twins uniform and in his MLB career. So it was pretty cool.
Now I know for me, I've done two kind of career-ending games. I did the Sedin Twins, and we knew going in they were done. Like, it was, everybody knew this was their last game in Vancouver, so you were able to cover it. You knew for sure 100%. On the other side of it, we did Shane Doan, where we were in the same situation. Contract's up, we know he's probably done, but we don't know for sure. Like, it's not 100%. And for us, that game was a lot harder to do because you don't want to make it the retirement game, but then you do want to make it the retirement game because you don't know if you'll get that chance. What is that experience like for you in the Joe Mauer situation? Is it harder to produce a game when you're just not 100% sure?
A little bit. I mean, I think, we were so Joe focused that I think, we kind of did treat it like a retirement game. And essentially, if he was going to come back, then I think it would have also still been an amazing thing. I mean, I think when we saw him come out in his catcher's gear and get so emotional, like, we all kind of looked at each other in the truck and we're like, this is it. He's done. He's not coming back. So I think we felt okay with that. Now, a year later, we got to do, they retired his number. So, we still see Joe, and, we kind of got to do the whole tribute yet again. But I think, once I found out that he was possibly going to put on his catcher's gear, I think in my mind, I knew. And then once we saw it and we saw the emotion, we kind of all felt that was it and that we made the right choices.
That's great. Yeah, we kind of took the same approach of you have to treat it like the retirement game to give the honor that's due. And then if he comes back, hey, it was still a great broadcast.
Right.
Speaking of great broadcast, great TV moments, what is your favorite TV truck moment in television in your career?
I would say it's truck and TV moment. It was 2017. The Twins had already clinched a playoff berth. They were a wild card team. The final weekend, they were playing at home. They were playing the Tigers. Tigers were out of it. Twins had already clinched. There was nothing to play for. And Friday, the rumors started flying that Andrew Romine of the Tigers was going to play all 9 positions in a game. Something that hadn't been done in a while. There were kind of a lot of rumors flying around the last month of the season, like, is Brad Ausmus going to let him do it? Isn't he? Whatever. So we found out Friday that they were going to do it on Saturday. And so, we were kind of joking around at dinner in the dining room at the ballpark, I think Dick Bramer, our play-by-play guy, was actually the first to bring it up. That was like, oh, it'd be kind of funny, like, if we switch positions or whatever, just like, I'll do this, you do that kind of thing. And, just talking with the talent. And it kind of slowly evolved into what if Marnie, our sideline reporter, did 9 different positions on the broadcast? And so, Matt Laxonen, who's one of our directors, and I kind of started throwing it around, and we're like, we could pull this off. Like Sunday, the game means nothing. No one's going to play because they're all going to rest for the wild card game. Saturday, we started mapping it out in our head of what would we want her to do? How could we showcase this and pull it off as well as cover the game? I kind of called my bosses and was like, hey, we have this thought. The Tigers are doing this today. Fox Sports Detroit had all these special graphics made for it. We can kind of steal it and play off of it a little bit. Can we get it okayed by the crew? All that. So they were all on board. And so we talked to Marnie and we're kind of like, here's what we're thinking. We decided to take our RF camera and instead of using it around the ballpark, follow her around. Who cares, right? It's game 162. So we kicked it off. Marnie kind of explained, here's what I'm doing for the day. I'm going to move around each half inning to a different position on the broadcast. And so she did her role, play-by-play analyst, stage manager. She ran a camera, she ran audio, she ran graphics, she produced, she directed, like she did it all. And so
that's great.
It was really fun. Like we all had a lot of fun with it. We got some really cool feedback. And an idea that essentially we came up with in under 48 hours, we actually won an Emmy for that game. So it was pretty fun. It's on my shelf. I won't show it off like Brad Weimer, but I have it.
Well, it's always good when you at least get rewarded for fun ideas. That's fantastic. Yeah, I think I remember seeing a few highlights from that show, and that was a hoot to watch. And sometimes, yeah, when you get to game 162, if there's nothing else to do, sometimes that's where the best moments do happen, is when you get outside the box and be a little different, be a little creative. So that's wonderful.
Yeah. And Marnie has a great personality. I mean, I love everyone that I work with, but she's the only one that could pull that off 100%. And she was on board right away, jumped right in and ran with it. And honestly, like she carried it. She made it what it was. So she was great.
That's great. I'll have to go back and find some highlights from that, because that is a lot of fun and doing crazy things like that. So, yeah. Well, Vanessa, I appreciate you coming on the show today. It was wonderful to have you on. Stay safe. Hopefully the players and the owners get it worked out, and we'll see each other in a baseball TV truck sometime in the near future. And you stay safe in these times.
Absolutely. You too. I know we're all dying to get back to work. We want sports to come back just as much as the fans do. So hopefully it's sooner rather than later.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for coming on. You have a great day.
Thanks, Eric.
To watch past episodes or for more information on today's show, visit BehindTheCameraPodcast.com, and we'll see you next time.